So this is a foundational meeting that they're having here. They're kicking it off, and I guess I'm honored and humbled that they chose me to come and talk. For 3.5 years, I ran a ministry up in Oshkosh called Dwelling 222, and it was birthed out of, if you go way back to 1989, as a young man, I really wanted to be involved in bringing Christian music to the Madison area where I lived at that time, and one thing led to another, it never happened. And then the church I was going to in 2018 was going to buy a newer building, and we went from seating 49 or 50 people to 360. And God laid it on my heart, the pastor approved it, and we took off from there. And in the 3.5 years, we've had a lot of independent artists, some artists that you'd be familiar with. Sanctus Real, Cochran and Company, I Am They, Jason Gray, Mark Schultz, a band called Carrollton, which had some top 20 hits for a while. And we were putting on monthly shows, and then we were putting on quarterly worship nights. And this required me to step outside of my comfort zone. My wife will tell you very easily that 4 years ago, before I accepted the call that God had laid on my heart, that when we would get into the car to go to church on Sunday, I would reach over and shut the radio off. And so now music has become a very integral part of who I am and who God has morphed me into, if you will. Once we decided to go live with Dwelling 222 in downtown Oshkosh, we had to figure out, how to put a music venue together, how to get a board of directors seated, what we were going to do with concessions, what night of the week we were going to, just all of the things that go into putting on a venue. Fortunately, these guys have got it down to an art. They had to deal with it 50 years ago, but not so much anymore. And then we watched as God literally brought several different artists to us that we didn't know about. And I'm hoping through going live tonight and talking with you about the ministry God's given me, that some of you will reach out and talk with me because the ministry God's called me to is pretty exciting. And we no longer are dealing with just one venue. I'm really here to talk about Christian Events Ministry. Was really started this past September, and my wife calls it a promotion. I guess because I was working with one location and one set of volunteers and one pastor and such, and now I'm expanded to Northeast Wisconsin, Central Wisconsin, and even Milwaukee area and out towards Watoma. And I have over 20 churches that I work with now. And I was kind of surprised that there was this thirst for Christian music. And talking with churches that are everything from wanting a band to come in and do worship on a Sunday morning, because maybe they don't have a worship team. There's a lot of churches out there, smaller churches that might not have the people that have the talent to lead worship. And so these churches have come to me and asked me to bring individuals in to work with them so that they can have a worship time either once a month, twice a month, or whatever. God granted me the awesome privilege of being to place a worship leader at a church near Green Bay. A gentleman that I had worked with, I referred him, they interviewed, and the church loved him and hired him a little over a week ago to be their new worship leader. And I can't promise that, obviously, but the 3.5 years at Dwelling really developed my heart for independent artists. And when I say independent, it means that you don't have a national recording contract. You don't have a national tour. You probably don't even have a manager other than maybe your wife or your laptop. And those are the individuals I want to specialize in because I think they maintain their roots really well. And they know that God has called them to the music ministry, and the ministry is more important than the music. Most of the artists that I've met that fit into this independent mode don't care about Dove Awards. They don't care about Grammy Awards. They don't care about CD sales. They want to bring a message from the Lord, and they can use music because God has gifted them that way. And I just love getting to know these individuals and finding places for them to play. And so I have people calling me, reaching out on Facebook, emailing me, And I'll give you all that contact information at the end. But Christian Events Ministry has three basic goals. The first one is we want to uplift the name of Jesus. Our first and primary goal when we bring artists around and place them at a venue is that the name of Jesus is uplifted. The second goal that we have is that Christians are encouraged. That the music and the message that come from the stage will bless the people that are there. I can't tell you the number of people who have come up to me after shows and been touched by the music, been touched by the word, been touched by the story behind the song. We've had people rededicate their lives to Christ, and that's been really exciting to see that God is using the ministry in that way. But that's so we want to lift up the name of Jesus. We want to encourage believers. And then the third goal is to come along and support artists. Now, a lot of these artists are trying to do this full time. They're trying to make a living in Christian music, but they aren't getting the $15,000, $20,000 fees to go play an arena. You know, they will come if they have a set fee, or in most cases, they'll come for whatever God wants to give them. That's how they phrase it. You know, I'm so grateful you've given me a place to play. Whatever the church wants to bless me with, whatever comes in offerings and sales and such, and they're very happy with that. I love that heart, that humility. Many of the artists that I represent have that heart, that desire. But when I say I want to come and support artists, I'm not talking just primarily taking funds in, collecting funds in and giving them that money. I want to come alongside them and help them with promotions. I want to come alongside them and be an ear, because when they're on the road for so many days out of the year, it can be lonely. It can be frustrating. And, you know, I had arranged a show in Appleton for two great guys. They're going to be on the stage March 25th and March 25th and 26th is going to be Brendan Brooks. And in the end of April 23rd, it's going to be Erskine. The two of them toured together, and I got them a show in Appleton. And we had 13 people show up. And 5 of them were the pastor's family. But they were okay with that. The pastor called me aside afterwards, and he was so impressed because they gave over a 90-minute show, and they put their heart and soul into it. And that's what it is, because they don't play for the people in the stands. They play for an audience of one. And that's just an encouragement to me. But then I went and talked with them afterwards and said, I'm really sorry we were only able to get 13 people. And Brendan laughed and said, I remember a concert that only had 4. So coming out and turning out and supporting the artists and praying for the artists. You know, an artist is going to come to the Overflowing Cup here, start praying for them as soon as it's announced. Because they're going to need Journey Mercies. They're going to need funds to cover gas and making sure all the technical stuff comes together. I've been at some shows where the technical stuff has not come together, and it sometimes delayed it up to almost a half an hour to get things going. So, and praying for encouragement, and then pray that God would use them when they're on stage to bring glory to Him. And each of them have different perspectives, different point of views. They got saved through different means, and their music is tailored to the particular point of reference that they have. All point to Jesus, but all of them will have different stories. And I love watching crowds, because you can see when somebody has an aha moment where a song will resonate with them and they'll be able to identify with it. Or the story before the song. The artist will always introduce a song and talk about how God brought this about, how God laid it on their heart. And somebody in the audience will scream out or whatever, and they'll realize, hey, this is for me. This song is for me. This is for me. This song is for me.
Rookie behind the board.
That's okay. And so I seek to bring those types of artists all throughout central and northeast Wisconsin, and going to be partnering with Mark and the Overflowing Cup to work some of the individuals into concerts down here in Beloit as well. So I want to ask you to join in that. Pray for the Overflowing Cup. What an amazing ministry here. As I was having dinner with them and talking about it and inviting people in that are outcasts. They're just, the rest of society doesn't want to see them, doesn't want to know them. And Mark and Dave and the crew here just open their hearts and open their arms and open their wallets, and they make them feel welcome. And so it's an amazing, amazing ministry here. So pray for Pastor Mark and Pastor Dave and the volunteers that are here that make this ministry run. And then come out and support the shows. The 3.5 years at Dwelling I was so blessed with, because we had Sanctus Real, Cochran and Company, Jason and Gray. A couple of times we had Jason. And the big bands are great, but they've got a schedule to keep. They don't have time necessarily to meet with the one-on-one. And that's kind of disappointing, because if a song really hit somebody, met somebody where they were, they're not going to be there to help talk and minister. And so I love it when artists don't have a stopwatch. I've watched Jason many, many times talking with people, pull them to the side and pray over them. And the artists that I represent will do that. Brendan Brooks told me flat out, Mike, when I'm there, I'm there. I'm not checking my clock. I'm not looking at the next show that I got to get to. And because unfortunately a lot of artists can do that. And so my goal is to bring in those kind of artists. They're going to lift up the name of Jesus, that are going to encourage the believers that are here. Mark is able to put this out on Facebook, so that means people that aren't able to make it here can still be blessed by the music and the stories and the songs as well. And so that's huge to be able to do that. I'm asking you tonight that if you are a musician, an artist, that God has laid on your heart to step out and do this. And it doesn't matter if it's full-time, if God wants you to travel from East Coast to West Coast and try and make a living at it, or if God's called you to do it in your free time on weekends or whatever. I'm going to invite you to reach out to me, because of the fact that I really feel there, just like I found out there was a whole bunch of churches out there that desire Christian music, then there's a lot of artists out there that are wanting to sing for the Lord but have no outlet to go and sing. Now, when I was at Dwelling, we were located at a church, and I answered to a board of directors for Dwelling, and then they answered to the board at the church. And because it was a specific church, there were sometimes doctrinal concerns. And so by stepping out beyond that, now I'm working with Lutheran, Baptist, Calvary Chapel, Assembly of God, non-denominational churches, and they're less concerned about the doctrinal statement than they are the people good? Do they have a testimony? And it's important that these individuals, possibly like you, that have a song in your heart that you can play, that you be given an opportunity to sing that. And my goal is to try and get as many shows for people as God allows me to. We started this ministry, technically we kicked off January 1st, but it was active back in September. And we had one show in January, one show in February. We've got 5 in March, 7 in April. And I haven't really started working on many yet. But I know we've got at least one going for that. So I saw the movie The Jesus Revolution. And it really touched me, because not only I go to a Calvary Chapel church and see the beginnings of the Calvary Chapel movement, but the Calvary Chapel movement also exploded into what has become contemporary Christian music. And I got saved in a very conservative church back in 1974, which happened to coincide with when Overflowing Cup started. And I was going to the conservative church, and we thought that the best you could do was George Beverly Shea and hymns. And I love hymns even to this day. But when I first got introduced to contemporary Christian music and audio adrenaline, or Don Francisco, Bruce Carroll, Scott Wesley Brown, it just kind of opened my eyes. And not that there's anything wrong with hymns. My wife has a beautiful voice and she sings hymns. She's got a CD out of hymns. So I still am very much in love with hymns. But contemporary Christian music puts a different spin on the words. And, we've got a band that takes the King James Version of the Psalms and puts it to contemporary music. And really, when you think about it, the Psalms was the hymn book of the Jews. And they would sing their way through Psalms quite frequently. And if you read Psalm 149 and 150, they were a noisy bunch when they praised the Lord. Timbrel, brass, and all kinds of stuff. And so it's okay to have that in the church. It's okay to be loud when you worship your God. But this band, Rock and Psalms, takes the King James Version literally word for word and puts music to it. And it is amazing. And I hope that we're able to get them down here sometime because it's a great group. We had a band that played spirited strings. They played like 7 different instruments, stringed instruments. And that was very talented ladies. We've got a Celtic band that'll be playing, interestingly enough, on St. Patrick's Day and in Fond du Lac. And they dress in Celtic style and they have Celtic music, but the lyrics glorify God. And it is just an absolute joy to be in the audience for those kinds of shows. We've had a I don't want to say fiddle violinist, Jean Watson, the lady from Michigan, who is very gifted and anointed. Beautiful, classically trained voice. She can play keyboard. She can play violin. And she's so loved in Ireland that she's got her own radio show over there. I'm going to work with Mark to bring her in because she is an amazing, amazing talent. Great stories behind it. She's written I want to say a 40-day devotional. I don't know if that's, my wife's shaking her head, yes. So yeah, 40-day devotional that's out there. So it's really amazing. You don't have to sell 4 million records to have a message. You don't have to have a national tour to have a ministry. And these individuals that I seek to represent are individuals that really feel the call of God. Now, it's important to point out that if God's call is truly on your life, He's also going to give you talent. I don't know if you're familiar with J. Vernon McGee. Some of his comments are really funny. He's talked about some woman got up in his church and said, God has anointed me to sing, but somebody forgot to tell God. And I will try and represent as many people as I can, but there is some limitations that I am not able to minister to everybody. With all the churches looking for worship leaders and such, I try and accommodate that. But if you really feel that God has called you and anointed you to bring a ministry in music, then I want to hear from you and get in touch with me. And typically I look for pictures, and I like pictures from a concert. The stage picture where you're standing like you're posing for Gentleman's Quarterly or a Life magazine or something. No, just show me when you're on stage, playing an instrument or singing or leading worship. That gives the people that I send your page to an idea of your persona on stage. And then I get a biography, and I try and get it on an 8.5 by 11. And then I get snippets of your music, usually YouTube, MP3, and I'll put this on what's called an artist page. And then I take all these artist pages and I put it into a roster. My roster is somewhere between 20 and 25 pages. Now, I will tell you right now, I do not send that roster out to churches because your average pastor doesn't have time to go through 25 pages and decide if there's an artist he wants. So what I've been doing is I've been taking 2 or 3 artists and highlighting them each month and sending them to my churches and telling them about this is, their ministry, this is what they do. And they could fit into a Sunday morning worship. They could do a Friday night concert. They could do a Saturday night concert. I could bring them down to Beloit for a Sunday night concert and things of that nature. And genre doesn't matter. We've had headbanging music, a band out of Fond du Lac that had actually never appeared on stage before. They cut an EP, 5 songs in studio, but they had never been on stage before. And then COVID hit. And I remember meeting with them and having lunch with them and talking with them, and I really liked their heart. And they had an EP that wasn't quite ready for release yet. And so we agreed to have them come to Dwelling in July of 2020 and do an EP release. And we had over 90 people show up for the show. And they sold like $900 worth of merchandise, just an amazing, amazing turnout. And in 15 months, they went from never being on stage as a band to playing at Life Fest. Because somebody had heard about him, put him on the radio up there, and God just took off from there. So, we've got that. I've had Bruce Carroll on the stage and Scott Wesley Brown. Bruce Carroll's more of like a country type style singer. Scott Wesley Brown has ballads. I would say he does a lot of ballads, a lot of worship. And another thing I'm gonna segue into, when I'm talking with the band and I say I only represent Christian artists that want to do Christian music, I don't want to hear you say, I can do Christian music, okay? I want people who are called by God to do Christian music because God's laid it on their heart. And, I'm sorry I can't represent everybody, but those are the artists that I think God has really anointed to go into the field. And there's a band out of Missouri, Travis Lee Band, it was a shirt I was wearing earlier, husband, wife, and father-in-law. And they had full-time jobs in Christian education, and they quit, bought an RV, and went on the road. And it's like, we'll go anywhere God calls us to go, and we'll take whatever the church lays at our feet. And they literally live in an RV, and they bring a nanny, I guess, with them, who then also is responsible for helping to educate the kids while they're on the road. They're going to probably be up in Wisconsin later this summer, July or August. I'll be working with Mark on that because I definitely want to see him play here. The dad plays a wide variety of homemade instruments from what I recall, and a lot of fun. But so you can see I'm not stuck with one genre or another genre, because I know, for instance, I don't listen to Christian rock or what I used to refer to as screech rock. I don't understand the words, but I also understand they may have a ministry and they may reach people that I'll never run into. And so I want to fight to give them a stage as much as I'll fight to give Scott Wesley Brown or Bruce Carroll a stage. Bruce Carroll will be up this way in September. Let Mark know you want to see him, and we'll see if we can get something worked out that way. So I guess coming here to talk, I had written a lengthy talk and haven't really used it, I guess because I felt that what God was laying on my heart was more the heart of Christian Events Ministry. Instead of talking about dwelling and all the things God used and did some amazing things with dwelling, and I could see God's hand in it from the very beginning, and how it's morphed now into Christian Events Ministry. I wanted to talk about Christian Events Ministry and the heart that I have for you, the artist, for those that come to hear. Maybe you've got, you just love music, but you can't hold it to them. I would say my dad was that way. Grew up on Hank Williams Sr., loved Hank Williams Sr., but we would always wait when it was time to sing Happy Birthday in the family. We'd wait till he took a bite of food, then we would sing. Because he wasn't allowed to sing with food in his mouth. He's gone home to be with the Lord, so I can talk about him now. But anyhow, and there was a couple times he actually fooled us. He pretended to put food in his mouth and then pulled it back. So he got to sing with us anyway. But so those individuals that appreciate music and appreciate ministry, my goal is to try and, if you're coming to Wisconsin and I line up a show for you, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there to support you. I'm going to be there to pray with you. I'm going to promote the show as best I can and make it as successful as I can. And if you're from out of state, I will try and make it a long weekend for you. A Friday night show, a Saturday night show, get you a Sunday morning worship, and then maybe a Sunday night show. I've got a place up in Clintonville that does once or twice a month worship nights on Sunday night. And I've got the Overflowing Cup down here and a couple of other places that I'm working on as well. So don't be afraid of reaching out if you're in Michigan or Illinois or Missouri, Nashville. I've got artists from down there. And the other thing about these artists that I have found out is if they have a particular ministry as well, that the music supports their family, but then also supports the ministry they're involved in. Erskine has got some overseas stuff in Africa, I think. Brendan just got back from a mission trip in Africa. They'll talk about it, and it's so cool to see how God is working in ways that you would have never believed. I mean, the first show we had at Dwelling was a guy named Don Shire, and Don is an extremely gifted trumpeter. And he uses that. He goes around and raises money for missions field. He's got a ministry in Honduras and a ministry in India. And the ministry in India is really cool because if a woman loses her husband, and let's say she's in her 30s or 40s, they put her out on the street because she lost the breadwinner in the house. And then at that age, the only thing they can do is turn to prostitution. And so he set up a home. They built a home, and now these women come in and they train them how to make clothes, scarves, things like that using sewing machines. And then Don takes those, comes to America and sells them, and then the money goes back and supports those women so they can be self-supporting without going into prostitution. And he's also got an orphanage in India and an orphanage in Honduras. And I guess he lives part-time in Wisconsin and part-time in Virginia, but we won't hold that against him. So he's available this way as well. He doesn't really sing, but he's an amazing trumpet player. But that's what's really cool is when they come up and they'll talk about what's near and dear to their heart. You'll see it's music, you'll see it's family, and then you'll see it's a particular ministry God has laid on their heart. And, if you have questions, Mark said, send a question via Facebook, and then he will ask me the question at the end of my talk whenever I shut up, and then I'll try and answer them from my perspective. I believe my past is human resources, accounting, bookkeeping, and things of that nature. And when God called me to start dwelling, you hear about learning curves, my learning curve was like that. Because I had to start from not liking music to now I had to represent and support music and promote music. And when I would get phrases like, oh, that's a one-off, versus, oh, that's off tour, oh, that's on tour. 4 years ago, I had no clue. But, now I understand that language. And so that's part of the growth process I've had. My wife says when God called me to start Christian Events Ministry that it was a promotion because I'm not doing just one show a month or one show a month and then a worship night every quarter. Brenda had noticed that I was getting physically ill last year after every show. I'd be there from 9 in the morning till 11 at night. I'd be running around selling tickets, getting the concession stand stuff together, setting up tables for merchandise, setting up tables to check people in, and then greeting the band, greeting the sound people, greeting the volunteers, greeting the guests. And I didn't really have a lot of time to enjoy the concerts because I was always running back to make sure merch people needed water or the concessions were okay and everything else. And so this role allows me to take the artist and the venue and hook them up. And once we agree on everything, then I swap information. I give the artist the location and the name, contact name and phone number and email, and vice versa. And in that way, they can take it from there. They can line up their own sound check. They can line up all that stuff, and then the artist and the venue will do promotions. And I'll come alongside and help with some promotions. If you follow me on Facebook, you know that it's an Achilles heel right now with them. But so that's how the ministry has morphed. And now I'm working with, like I said, 20 churches. And I can't make it to all of the concerts that I line up. It's physically not possible. For one, because I've got 2 on the same night. One in Neenah and one near Green Bay. So if I'm not able to make it to one of your concerts, I'm really sorry. But if you're new to Wisconsin and such, I will try and make it. If not your first night, maybe the second or third show you do. Just because I like meeting believers in Christ. I like hearing their story. Even in your own church, I don't care if you've got 5 people or 500 people. Take time to listen to the story of how they came to Christ. It's amazing. God uses the most amazing stories. And I was at a church that taught primarily out of the New Testament. And then I ran into somebody who got saved out of the Old Testament. It's like, wow, what a concept. And yet God's Word is all God-breathed. And it's profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction and instruction in righteousness, that the man of God may be thoroughly furnished to all good works. And that's what the ministry is all about. And Bruce Carroll told me back in the 70s and 80s, they could jump in a car in California and make it all the way across the country and have a place to play every weekend, because there were coffee shops all over, and they just kind of started dying out. And so when I started dwelling, it got a lot of attention. A lot of people were very interested in it. And like I said, I was only able to do one show a month because I didn't have the volunteers. And real honestly, if I had done more than one show a month, I probably wouldn't be here right now. So, and if you're a writer and you're looking for musicians to play your music, I have some people that write songs and they're looking for musicians to do the recording, to make a demo. Get in touch with me. You never know. It amazes me how God continues to answer prayers, and He answers prayers that I didn't even know I had. You familiar with that? God knows you're going to need this, so He answers the question, and it's like, I haven't even asked for that. And God's like, yeah, you will. You'll get there. And so I've got a couple of musicians right now looking for worship bands to join. And they're not necessarily lead singers, but they want to be part of a worship band, or they want to be part of a band that tours and sings for the Lord. So I've got all sides of the spectrum, that are wanting to minister for the Lord. And if you're at all paying attention to what's going on in the world, we don't have real long here. I'm convinced that the Lord's coming back. I'm one of those pre-trib rapture people you hear about. And I believe we're seeing before our eyes the fulfillment of Scripture. And the next thing on the eschatological clock, if you will, is the trumpet sound and the return of our Lord to take us home in the rapture. And by the way, I'm going to just share this little segue here. I've been doing a lot of study about the rapture, particularly the Great Tribulation. And we're told in Scripture that we're going to be saved from the wrath to come. But when you study the 7-year tribulation, the wrath really doesn't start till halfway through. Things seem to go pretty easy for that first 3.5 years of the Antichrist breaks his treaty with Israel. And he tries to sit in the holiest of holies and declare himself God, and Israel has nothing to do with that. And that's when things get really, really nasty. So I was kind of leaning towards being a mid-trib rapture. My wife is solidly pre-trib rapture. And we'd have this discussion. And till the day I die, I always remember when she looked at me and she said, well, I'll see you when you get up there then. So I have been blessed with a wife that's got a great sense of humor because she puts up with me. She's got a beautiful voice and ministers a lot in kids' music, in kids, teaching kids and youth and things of that nature, that she's been able to come alongside and support me. And the weekend God revealed this to me was that we were at our cottage, and after I spent a mostly sleepless night and was writing a bunch of stuff out, I shared it with her the next day, and she was like, yeah, let's go. And to have a wife that is 100% involved in your ministry and supporting you is priceless. Absolutely priceless. So it's no wonder I introduced her to everybody as my better two-thirds. All right, well, I've been yammering for 35 or 40 minutes here. So if you've got any questions, let Mark know. If you don't have any questions, I can tell you a few more anecdotes from dwelling. And, if you're seeing this on Facebook and you're not necessarily in the Beloit area, I've got churches in Clintonville, Waiawega, Appleton, Wapaka, Oshkosh, Fond du Lac, Grafton, Watoma, I'm working with. So if you're, anywhere near those areas, keep an eye out. Christian Events Ministry, look it up on Facebook. Christian-ministry-events.mailchimpsites.com is my official website, and I've got my next 4 shows already listed on there, so you can see what's going on and what's coming up. The churches that I work with, the pastors are behind it, so they will print up flyers and make it available. Some will mention it from the pulpit when they're doing their announcements. These are all great ways to get the words out. And if you're a new artist and you've just started recording, just started writing music, and you're looking to get your music out there, and why else are you writing it if you don't want to get the music out there? drop me a note. I can put you in touch with some Christian artists that have been doing this for 10 and 20 years. That will have some insights for you. That will have some great tips on how to promote your music and how to get shows. And most of the artists I work with will say, call Mike. But my phone number is 920-252-5483. And that's my cell phone. Don't call right yet. And, if I'm not able to answer it, leave a voicemail, give me your phone number, email, stuff like that, maybe a website. My email address is mikebraun2014@gmail.com. And I love emails because you can send, pictures, biography, samples of your music. My wife and I were listening to a demo CD on the way down to Overflowing Cup tonight about a worship band. And it's really exciting that there's so many people out there that want to worship the Lord, lead worship, and minister to the hurting. And it's so sad that there's not enough churches to go around for them. And that's what Christian Events Ministry is. On my page, you'll see it says, Christian Events Ministry exists to connect ministry-minded Christian artists with like-minded venues. In central and northeast Wisconsin, and I may have to expand that because I've worked with churches in Janesville and Madison now too. So I will take whatever questions that you might have. Hopefully I'll have an answer for you. Otherwise, you've got my phone number, you've got my email address, you've got my website. Unfortunately, the website doesn't have a link that you can send me an email. It's just more for informational purposes. But it does talk about the heart of the ministry. And so I'll stop here. If there's no questions, I can go into a couple of other stories.
Well, people are posting on the Overflowing Cup Facebook page, okay, and just sending information to you or saying that, so we can sort through all of that, okay, afterwards. But you mentioned at dinner that it's not just music and musicians that you are. I'm giving you a handoff here.
A handoff, yeah. I totally forgot about that. I've worked with comedians, Christian comedians that do stand-up. I work with Fish Sticks out of Milwaukee, which is an improv comedy group. Very funny group. Paul Aldrich, Kyle Yamada, Darren Strebel, that's a name a lot of people will see up in the Fox Cities area. He's on the radio on Saturday and Sunday nights at, I think, 6 o'clock with an hour show, and he puts snippets on of comedians. So I might be able to bring him in for a show. Ken Kington out of Nashville is another one. Don't ask for Ken Davis. Ken Davis is pretty much retired now, but he's one that's out there. I also work with a few what they call motivational speakers that will go into corporations to give motivational talks, or like Don Beebe, who's a Christian. Well, he was a Packer for several years, went to 4 straight Super Bowls, and then now he's the head coach of a Christian school, a college in Illinois. He will come and to give his personal testimony. And I think in a 40-minute snippet that I saw, he mentioned Jesus 29 times, something like that. It was all about Jesus. So if you're an organization and you're looking for individuals that, can sing, or I've even had a juggler contact me, I can try and find them for you. If you have if you kind of like, let's say Tim Hawkins, and you intertwine comedy with music, I'd love to talk to you, because that's a ministry that you can worship the Lord with, like Tim Hawkins does, but you can also make people laugh, and laughter is so needed in this world now. So, that's why I call it Christian Events Ministry instead of Christian Music Ministry, because I do more than just music. Any other questions?
Do you have, I don't know if this, yeah. Do you have connections or shows that you work with that are radio programs within the state, within the area?
Well, I know in terms of some places will live cast their shows when they have them.
Yeah, certainly we do.
Yeah. Some of them don't. Some of them have to have a sound tech person come in and do it because they don't know how to do it.
Right.
That's another great way to get your name out there. I called it a podcast in error. I have a YouTube channel that I teach 4 times a week about Bible verses, questions like the one I did today this morning was, do we pray to Jesus, God, or the Holy Spirit? And using the scriptures to point out what the answer is to that. But I dealt with social issues, abortion, LGBTQ, and things of that nature, as well as difficult passages in scripture. And I haven't branched into the podcast yet. I gotta get brave enough to try that. But that's one way. Erskine down in Nashville, who will be here April 23rd, has an actual show. I think he's on 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, usually in the morning. And he'll talk about a wide variety of issues. And then sometimes he'll throw in a little snippet. He's been on TV on Trinity Broadcast Network on Praise Night, singing a couple of songs and such. And he played Life Fest Music City. When Bob Lenz took Life Fest down to Nashville, Erskine was one of the first ones they asked to be a part of that. So very, very talented individual. And when we were talking earlier at dinner time about different genres, Erskine can do hip hop, he can do rap, he can do country, he can do a wide variety of stuff. And he will probably come off the stage. He'll be out interacting with people. And he's a lot of fun. So get your name out there. Up in the northeast side, there's a place called Cup of Joy, cupofjoy.com. And at least once every couple of months, they have what's called an open mic night. All you got to do is go on and register, and they will set a spot for you. You can go up. They don't pay you for it, but it gives you an audience to play to. And if you're really good, Jan will pull you over and say, let's set a date to bring you in for your own show. And so that's another way to, and I don't know if they I don't think they live stream their shows.
I played there 25 years ago when there wasn't such a thing.
Yeah.
A few times. Yeah.
So that's some advice. There's coffee shops around that, again, they may not have a guarantee that they're going to guarantee you $500 to play, but they'll pass a bucket. The way Dwelling did it is we had 2 buckets side by side, and we passed them. One side went to the ministry, one side went to the artist. And when they were passing the bucket, I tried to encourage people to make sure the artist got enough money, because they're trying to make enough money that way. We had concessions going on, and we knew that we would make money from it. But when you're starting out and all, be grateful for the opportunity that somebody gives you a stage, because there's so many places that aren't going to do that. And if they're willing to give you a stage, go and play. And if you get a meal out of it, and maybe gas money, praise God, it's a start. I imagine Bruce Carroll probably started that way. And Scott Wesley Brown, I had a couple of conversations with them, because Scott got kind of saved out a few years after the Jesus Revolution. And that's, he would just go and play wherever, street corners or whatever, and have his guitar case open, and people would throw money in. And that's how sometimes they started. I think Brenda said Alan Jackson. You saw Alan Jackson that way. Somebody saw him down in Florida before he hit it big.
He's on a soapbox.
Yeah, he's standing on a soapbox. So, if God's really given you a heart for music, and you want to get it, you want to get it heard, then these are just some of the options that you can do. National radio stations, unless you've got a national recording contract, they're not going to give you the time of day. You need to go after independent stations. And what I'm hearing is that the independent stations are actually looking to Spotify sales. If your song is selling a lot up in a certain region of the state, then they'll go, wow, this guy's got the number 2 song in the region. Let's start playing that. And of course, once you get on radio, now you've got radio airplay, other people are going to get involved and hear about you, and they're going to tell their church to bring you up for concerts and things like that. And that's kind of how the ball gets rolling, which is why it takes 6 to 8 years to be an overnight success.
Right.
I didn't hear any laughter with that.
We got one right here.
What's that?
We got one right here.
Yeah.
That laughs?
And played for years before he finally got on the radio.
Oh yeah, that's true. You know, Rock and Revival Radio in Arizona has been playing myself for a couple of months, and Rusty Drake as well. So at least a couple of the people you are involved with.
Yeah, we have inspiritradio.com is an independent Christian radio online near Madison, run by Mike Powers, who was a radio DJ at WNWC.
Yeah.
And then there's the Rockin' Revolution, I think it's called the Rockin' Revolution up in the Fox Cities area. He likes to play a little heavier style of music, but he's available. But that's another aspect is seek out those online places, because a lot of times Facebook has got some great, I'm going to say something nice about Facebook. Facebook has got some great pages. They've got artist to venue connection. Join it, because you're going to find there are venues near you that you didn't even know about that are looking for artists. I joined it and started getting calls and emails immediately about artists wanting me to hook them up. There is pages that will tell you about online radio stations, literally from California to New York. And, you can find them and then start sending your music to them. And then you start getting played, and then people start inquiring, and then they find out, oh, he's got a website. Oh, I can buy this on Spotify. And then that's how you start getting yourself, years and years and years and years and years ago, way before I was an adult, you used to have to send your CDs, your albums out, or your singles out with a $50 bill or $100 or whatever to get somebody to play it. That's not how the game is played now. And so you got to do a lot of self-promotion on your own. And I'm going to give a plug to my friend Brendan Brooks. Brendan is really, really got a heart for new artists starting out. So if you can find your way to Beloit on March 25th or 26th, he's going to be playing here. And he will take some time and talk with you, because he's been doing this for, I know, at least 12 years. I don't want to age him and say he's been 20 or more, but at least 12 years he's been doing it. So he can help you avoid some of the mistakes he made as a young artist starting out. So March 25th and 26th, certainly come and see him here and ask him questions. He's going to love me for promoting that show, I know. Any other questions?
Now that I'm coming here, would you like to continue to share stories? There's someone I'm waiting for who said that she would probably be here.
Okay.
Nicole Kelly. So if you could hear me, Nicole.
We're waiting.
And she, because of work and how far away she lives, she said she probably wouldn't be here until about 8.
Okay.
So I'm at least giving a chance to see if she shows up.
All right. I can tell some anecdotes. Don Shire, I mentioned, he was the first show we did at Dwelling, because my pastor knew him from the mission field, and I knew him because he played an Easter show at our church. And I had never filled out forms before, and so I filled it out. And where I was supposed to put the venue address, I put my address.
Oh, no.
So he was supposed to show up at like 4 o'clock for the sound check, and he drives by my house, pulls over and goes, "This doesn't look like a venue." And so he called me, and of course we got that worked out. One Sunday morning, I try and greet the new people that are coming to our church. There was a couple people sitting in the front row, and I'm talking with them, and it turns out that they were part of Fish Stick's improv comedy. And so that's how they got to be our second show. The third show that we had, there was a Christian band out of Tennessee, and they were going to do a festival in North Dakota and get interviewed by a radio station in Minnesota. They wanted to come up through Wisconsin, and he gave me a week. And it's like, number one, we didn't even have a facility at that point. But then when it looked obvious we were going to get this 360-seat facility, I reached out to him. He wanted an amount of money that was, because he had a 4-piece band. He had an amount of money that we couldn't afford. We were just starting out. And as we were talking, so let's pray about it, talk next week. And he called and he said, your shows are always on Thursday night, but this week it's on a Friday night. Why? And I said, well, we got a youth conference going on that week, and so we're moving the concert to Friday night. He goes, if I did your worship for your youth conference and then came and did your concert, would you pay me then? I was like, yeah. And so our pastor was thrilled because it was the first time he had ever been responsible for the youth conference. And he's never gotten rid of that. They keep asking him every year because word got out, they've got a band. And so we have the band, actually, they lead worship Monday night for the staff. Tuesday, the kids arrive. They do worship Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then Thursday night, they do a concert, a Christian concert at the camp. Because a lot of these kids are never going to get a chance to go to a Christian concert. So they got their merch laid out, usually very discounted for the kids and everything. And it's a great time. And they go home and tell their parents about it. That's how I met Brendan Brooks. God, I got to tell the story about Brendan. He had heard about Dwelling. He sent me some of his music. He sent me his CD, Broken. And I was really, really busy. And I'm going to claim a senior month. Not a senior moment, a senior month. Because he calls me back and he goes, so do you think you could get me a spot on the stage? I said, well, Brendan, I don't really know. I don't have a lot of calls for a lot of country artists. Got quiet on the other end of it. And he goes, did you even listen to my music? And so now it's one in my regular rotation. He's not a country artist. He plays contemporary Christian music, a lot of worship stuff. He is in high demand throughout the Midwest for Celebrate Recoveries by name because of his music, his ministry, and the worship that he leads. So come out and hear him. Erskine will be here in April 23rd. Come out and hear him. And if you sit in the first couple of rows, he'll probably be right there because he's very energetic when he performs. So I'll let
Well, the person we were waiting for arrived.
Kelly. Hi, Kelly.
Hello.
The whole room was
Welcome.
waiting for you.
Oh my goodness. Well, very good. I'm Nicole. It's nice to meet you.
So I'm talking about Christian Events Ministry, which started out as Dwelling 222, which was a venue in Oshkosh. We ran for 3.5 years, had over 40 shows and worship nights, and then God called me to step out and expand beyond Oshkosh. So now I'm working with 20 venues.
Fantastic.
And working with over 20 artists. And juggling would be a really good word for it. Trying to get people, and if I've got an artist from out of state, I'll try and give them a show in like Fond du Lac on a Friday, get them a Sunday morning or a Saturday night show maybe in Clintonville, bring them back to Appleton for Sunday morning worship, and then stick them here with Mark on a Sunday night on the way back to Nashville or whatever. And so it's been really interesting because I'm being called upon to be a lot more organized than I've ever been before. And so my wife, Brenda, has been a staunch supporter, but has told me I can't be busier with this ministry than I was my last ministry. So I got to keep an eye on the clock that way. So, Kelly, you are in music?
Oh, yes.
You play?
Yeah, Nicole.
Absolutely.
Okay.
She's got one of those double names, you know.
Yeah.
I know you're
Hello. Yes, I am in music.
Okay. So you have CDs out?
I do. I have 2.
You have 2 out?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you sing regional? Or are you looking to expand?
I sing regionally in northern Illinois and then southern Wisconsin as I can, and I'm here because I am looking to add some venues to my exactly. And then I also booked down in Oklahoma, which is where I'm from. You might be able to hear that in my voice. But
Are you familiar with Nehemiah Fest at all?
I am not.
It's a festival. I think it's a one-day Christian event. It might be 2 days. But you could look them up on Facebook. and they're always looking for new artists to come in. And I don't know any remuneration or anything, but it's a great way to get exposure.
Fantastic.
So how long have you been singing?
Well, I've been singing pretty much forever, but I've been writing my own music for probably 15 years, and then I released my first album in 2016.
Okay.
And my second album released in 2021, maybe?
Okay.
So
self-produced, or do you have a label you work with? Or?
I don't have a label. I do have a friend with a studio down in Mississippi, which is where I made my second album.
So do you travel down there, or do you send it by email?
I did. No, I went down there. Yes.
All right.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Why don't you come on up?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, sure. I know you're not shy of being on stage. The reason I'm asking you for that is because we can. This is going out. Other people are hearing it, and by him talking to you, the artist will get a better idea of what this is about.
Wonderful. So, what would you like me to do?
You like to just
I'll be up
stand
there with the
up there
microphone.
and, yeah.
Have her come on up here.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're a venue and you'd like to have a new artist, Kelly Nicole is her name.
Nicole
Kelly.
Nicole
Yes.
Kelly.
That's all right.
I was automatically putting the last name first and the first name last.
I have two first names, so I don't hold a grudge.
What Christian Events does is when I run into an artist that is willing to let me represent them, and I should mention right off the bat, I do not charge for my services. I don't charge artists, and I don't charge venues. My wife and I are financially independent, and so this is my gift to the Lord to bless artists and venues and try and hook them up. My goal is to connect ministry-minded Christian artists with like-minded venues. With the simple goal of lifting up the name of Jesus, encouraging believers, and then coming alongside and supporting artists.
Fabulous.
So what I typically do is I get pictures from the artist, preferably when they're on stage performing, and then a bio from them, and then links to songs on YouTube, MP3, something like that. Mm-hmm. Because then what I do is I'll take that page and I'll send it to some venues that I have. I've got one up in Wyoming that wants monthly shows. I've got one in Neenah that wants monthly shows. The one in Grafton, Wisconsin, north of Milwaukee, I think is leaning towards monthly shows.
Wonderful.
So I've got places to put people. And so, by listening to your music and getting a sense of your style, your genre, the pictures help give a stage presence.
Sure.
Video obviously works a lot better, but the picture will help that way, and then of course they can hear from the music. And then especially when I get a chance to meet the artist and say, this is how I think that they would really come across. You should give them a try this night or whatever. Most of the venues, and when I say most, I mean 95% of the venues I work with do not have a budget for artists. They can't say, okay, I guarantee you 250.
Sure.
They will take offerings. Mm-hmm. They will let you set up and sell your merchandise. And most of them will have a hotel budget available for a night in a hotel. I've got a couple that will be real creative and say, well, would they be okay staying at this house with this family or something like that? We have on occasion let artists stay. We've got a cottage in central Wisconsin, and we'll let them stay there. Fortunately, we haven't had anybody stay for a month. And say, I don't want to leave. Billy Smiley was telling me when he was there, he wanted to bring a bunch of his writers up and have a Christian songwriters weekend retreat up there at the cottage right on the water.
Oh, wow.
And we're going up there tomorrow. Anyhow, so then the idea is that I will promote 2 or 3 artists each month to the 20-some venues. And then they'll call me and ask about it, and then I'll talk with you and say, your schedule this weekend, yes, no, and then once we agree, then I just hook you up with the venue, and then you run with it.
Wonderful.
And then, I'll put it on my docket because I've got this huge spreadsheet on my computer. It's got the venues here, it's got the dates here, and then I'm just plopping names in all over the place when I get it lined up. My desire is to be there when a venue has their first show and when an artist makes their first appearance that I'm representing. I try and be there for it. Can't guarantee that I'll make it all the time, or I would never see my wife on weekends. So that's kind of where I'm about. I can do some promotions. I've got a MailChimp account, 1,180 email addresses right now. I'll try and get that out a couple times a month before a show.
Fantastic.
I've got a website that I promote. I'm on Facebook. Got like 1,600 followers, so I'm posting it. I've got various people that will also repost it, which helps get the word out. Obviously, as an artist, self-promotion is really, really important.
Of course.
And, if you end up having a following up in a certain area and you're going to be up there, you want them to know about the show so they can show up. Because one of the things I learned from Cup of Joy is that if the artist doesn't promote themselves really well, they're going to have a lower turnout, and then she's probably not going to invite them back. And I've had that experience with Dwelling 222 as well. I mentioned that at Dwelling 222 we had I Am They, Sanctus Real, Jason Gray a couple of times, Cochran and Company, Mark Schultz. We had a lot of big names and a lot of independent ones. And after running those 40-some shows, I really liked the independent ones. Now I still get contacted from Nashville because of my experience with Dwelling, and promoters are calling me to see if I can find a date for like Unspoken. I know they're up at the Cup of Joy this weekend. They wanted me to try and find a Friday night or a Sunday night, but they didn't give me enough time. So we're working on a date in September now to try and bring them in. So that's what if you're willing to travel and you're willing to be flexible with your schedule, I've got Brendan Brooks. I talk about him a lot. I love the guy.
I think I know him. Yeah. Anyway, keep going.
I've got him playing a show Friday night, Saturday night, doing worship Sunday morning, and then playing here, playing at another place on Sunday night. So I can get him 4 shows in a weekend. And he's got 4 kids, doesn't he? Yeah. Well, they come to the youth conference, so, and he did our youth worship for 2 years in a row, and then said he was going to come back. Even if we didn't want him to lead worship, he was going to come back and run our games for us. So I think he's become a fixture at our youth conference.
Nice.
Do you have any, you've been doing this since 2016 when your first CD came out. You probably were doing a little bit of touring or doing concerts before you made your first CD. So what advice might you have for some of the individuals listening?
Play everywhere you can.
Okay.
Anyone that says yes, you play there.
Yeah. Yeah, I talked about Cup of Joy has an open mic night up in Green Bay, and you register to go up, and they won't cover your hotel, they won't cover your meals, they won't cover your but it's worth going up there because you get exposure. And if you're going up there and you let me know, I might be able to help you fill in some other dates. Which, like I said, that's how I got to meet John Schlitt from Petra and Billy Smiley from Whiteheart, because they played the Cup, and I got them a show over there, and I got a show here. They came and put on a show here. And so if I know ahead of time you're going to be in the area, I usually encourage artists to try and get what's called an anchor show. Yes, I'll guarantee you $500. Come and do a show here on a Friday night. You contact me, I can get a Saturday night, maybe a Sunday night show, maybe a Sunday morning worship someplace to help fill it in and make it extra. If you're going to be in the area already, it makes perfect sense. So even if you're going to go up and do a open mic night where you're not going to get paid anything, it might be beneficial because I might be able to help find you some other places.
Oh, fantastic.
Play.
Yep.
I've also been encouraging people. InSpiritRadio.com is a place near Madison, online radio station, run by a former Christian DJ. He's still a DJ, but he doesn't spin discs anymore, so I don't know. Anyhow, InSpiritRadio.com, and get in touch with him that way. Facebook groups, one that I would encourage you to look at is Artist to Venue Connection on Facebook. As soon as I found out about it, I sent it out to all the artists that I was aware of and watched them one at a time join.
Right.
And then somebody went on there and said, "Hey, we're opening a coffee shop in Southern Ohio. We're looking for bands." So I took that and I sent that all the way around. So I had one band that wanted to hire me as a manager.
Oh, wow.
And I couldn't. I said, "No, God's called me to spread it out, so that's what I'm going to do."
Cool.
But if I do represent you, when I find out about other locations and like Nehemiah Fest and such, I'll try and keep you apprised so that, might give you an opportunity to play someplace else. And when you play like Nehemiah Fest, you're going to run into other artists, and of course, artists already know other artists. That's how you network and you develop, and you find, I didn't know they had I didn't know that Fisher, Indiana had a coffee shop, or that, they're doing this or they're doing that. And so by doing that networking, the microphones are just too close, I think. Oh, okay. So that, getting hooked up that way. But you said, play anywhere and everywhere. I've had one guy play for 4 people, but he played. And you got a song, God's called you to sing, that's what he wants you to do, to sing it.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
how do you value, what your music does for someone, right? So even in the places where you think God's not doing anything, you just never know.
Well, when I mentioned that church in Appleton that had just 13 people show up, I had a 2-person show, they had 13 people show up, and 5 of them were the pastor's family. They put on an outstanding show. Mm-hmm. And the pastor came to me afterwards, because he saw what the donations were that came in. And he said, can I write each of them a $200 check from the church? What am I going to say? No.
Wow. Yeah.
He said, I was so impressed, he says, because I felt bad. There were 13 people in the seats, and yet they gave their heart. And I said, because they play for an audience of 1.
Right.
They're not here to impress you. You're here to enjoy the singing, but they're singing as if Jesus Christ himself was there. And that's why I want to represent independent artists.
Awesome.
Because I just feel like a connection that way.
What about CSMI?
Excellent point. There is an organization based out of Watertown, Wisconsin, called CSMI, Christian Songwriters and Musicians International, csmimusic.org. If you can leave me your stuff, I can make sure.
I will. Okay.
Anyhow, Gino is connected internationally with Christian artists that write songs, and he is a wealth of information. This is a guy that put a CD out this past fall where the lead guitarist was a guy named Phil Kagi. And he knows Bruce Carroll and Scott Wesley Brown and all these, and he is just really well connected. And he will call you and say, hey, I'm going to be in your neck of the woods. We're going to do a praise in the park. And they try to do praises in the park at every state. Can you come out and play with us?
Cool.
And then he'll give you the stage to do, some songs, worship and such. Great organization to be a part of. Thank you, Brenda. And I'll use a shameless plug here. My wife put her own CD out back in 2019. And what makes it unusual, outside of the fact it's got 15 songs on it, it's an hour of music, is that it's all hymns. The guy that plays the music for her likes hymns, loves hymns, and says, nobody's producing hymns anymore. And Brenda loves hymns. And so we work together with them, put out a CD. I have them available here. All the money that we collect from it goes to our VBS and at our church anyway. But we self-produced this. We knew we were going to lose money. We did it because really as a way of honoring her dad. She sang in high school and competitions and such, and then after high school sang at weddings and things of that nature. And then I came into her life and got her hooked up with a voice coach. And then after about 6 months said, hey, let's plan something here. And this is the result of it. And, we haven't taken any money from the CDs that sell. We give it to the church. We were giving it to Dwelling 222 before it closed. And now we're going to direct it towards Vacation Bible School. But the other thing I would encourage that CSMI will tell you is hook yourself into a ministry. Whether it's Compassion International, they've got all the big artists anyway, but ministries that are kind of off the beaten path. Like Unspoken, I think, works with human trafficking, against human trafficking. Things like that, because if you can associate your music with a ministry and such, it's going to enhance your music. It's going to take on a whole new depth because you're singing for the Lord, you're representing this ministry you believe in, and that'll help energize your followers as well to identify with that. So does that make sense?
Yep.
And you didn't happen to bring any CDs with you?
I did.
Oh, well,
Right.
We'll talk later.
Okay.
Okay. While you're up there,
Yes.
so where are you playing? What do you have coming up? Besides Rock on the Rock, which I'm not sure that I talked to you about yet.
Ooh. So we'll talk.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I got you here on camera. Okay.
So regularly I am leading worship a few times a month down at a place called the Center in Itasca, Illinois. And there's a local coffee shop called Daisy's Artist Cafe. So I play there once a month, maybe every other month or so, like during the winter time.
Local to what city?
Lake Villa, Illinois. So that's in Lake County, Illinois. And then there's another local place in Antioch, which is a neighboring suburb, and it's called the Open Mic Cafe. And so, I know, but it sounds like every night's an open mic night, but every Friday is an open mic night. And then on Saturdays, Alex is the owner, and he books shows in there and that sort of thing. And he has a tremendous heart for the community. And so I really love that. I'm drawn to things like that. Of course, I play here when I can. And apparently Rock on the Rock. I'm going to be at Taste of Wisconsin in July. Right. And then there's like a fundraiser in October, but it's all on my website. So,
all right.
But those are the types of things. Yeah. And then when I go down to Oklahoma, then I play down there, and yeah, so I'm going to sign up for some house concerts and things like that. So,
very cool.
Yeah.
Open Mic Cafe, that's in Lake Villa.
It's in Antioch. Antioch. Mm-hmm.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Absolutely.
We'll wrap it up here in a few minutes, and you two can just talk.
Chit chat and all that.
Yeah.
I do want to mention Monday, the 13th of March, if you're near the Oshkosh area or you want to hear a really great Christian band, they're playing at the Oshkosh Arena after the Wisconsin Herd game. The Wisconsin Herd is like the G League. It's a developmental league for the NBA. There'll be players on the floor playing for the Wisconsin Herd that will play for the Bucks later this year. And it's $15 to get a ticket, but that covers ticketing fees and the band and the game. And it's great. And then on the 17th, St. Patrick's Day, that's coming up real fast. Next Friday, down at Spirit of Life in Fond du Lac is going to be the MPK Christian Celtic Band. Lots of fun, and you don't even have to be Irish.
That'll be fun.
March 31st, the Celtic Band will be up near Green Bay at Wellspring at the Cross. And March 31st, the Rock Brothers Southern Gospel Quartet will be in Neenah. April 14th, I've referenced the Rock and Psalms. They're going to be in Neenah on April 14th. And then on May 19th, the Christian Celtic Band will be out in Waiawega. Also in Waiawega on, the 21st is going to be Erskine and Brendan, and they're actually back in Neenah. I need to carry my Excel sheet with me.
You just remembered about 5 to 10 more dates in a row than I could tell you my anniversary and my birthday and my wife's birthday, and that's it. Otherwise, I'm looking at my phone.
Okay. I will turn it back over to Mark. Thank you so much for
Thank
inviting
you.
me down to talk and fielding questions and bringing them and bringing people in. That will be a blessing.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
God bless you. I have a dream. I have a dream today. In 1996, the Lord gave me a dream. So I guess I do have a dream. The Lord gave me a dream, and He said, start a magazine about Christian arts and entertainment in this region. I got up the next morning. I said, yes, that's what I'm going to do. I went out and bought a copy of Microsoft Publisher. I started calling people and saying, this is what's going to happen. Do you want to buy an ad? Because I was that naive. But I'll tell you what, 21 days later, we published the first copy of a magazine called Joshua Today. And the name came in the dream as well. And for the next 3.5 years, we were off and running to the point where eventually we had employees. We were 12,000 copies throughout northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, and parts of Iowa. And covering musicians from all over the country that were coming into this region, but mostly covering the musicians that were already in this region, because that was really where our heart was. We weren't necessarily writing about Michael W. Smith playing in Milwaukee. We were writing about a ministry in Milwaukee or an artist somewhere in northern Illinois and reaching. And it opened up so many doors. We had to work with radio stations. We had to do all kinds of things. But my dream was at that time, and continues to be all these years later, that we come together to create something of excellence where we can be proud that we represent our King and our kingdom, and that we can be proud to be ambassadors of Christ and to take that message out. And we can do it in a way that doesn't require excuses, that just represents our daddy well. And thank you, Mike, because you're part of that. You're part of that. And over the years, I've kind of dropped the issue here and there, and it comes back around. And I drop the issue, and it comes back around. To the point where a couple of years ago, when we came here and started ministering again for me at the Overflowing Cup, I was pleasantly surprised at how many people I ran into who were still taking the name of Jesus and raising it up all over. Lisa Weyerhaeuser, someone we both know.
Oh, yes.
You much better than I. I had interviewed her for that magazine years ago. That's how I met her.
Nice.
And then in this area, if you're going to be involved in Christian music, the place to always go for 49 years has been the Overflowing Cup. I know when I first started a Christian rock band in the 90s, everywhere we played, people would say, "Have you played at the Cup yet?" Like, "No, I don't know what the Cup is." "Oh, you need to know Dave, because everybody knows Dave." And they were right. So we ended up here. And it's going to keep growing. It's going to keep growing. The world that we live in right now is so quickly and easily interconnected. So let's use it for the good guys. Let's use it to get the good word out. Let's use it to give the good message out.